In 10 minutes, I'm going to show you how to recognize 12 different languages when you see them. Have you played games like Joe Chaser and you're supposed to identify the country where the game pins you there, and you're like googling through, looking at a truck, looking at a signboard, and you look at some alphabet and say, if only I can recognize where I have seen this alphabet before. So today I'm going to share with you 12 different countries' languages that do not use the Roman alphabet, and if you can recognize them, you're going to win in the Joe Chaser game. So let's start off with Southeast Asia. We'll talk about Thailand, Laos, and also Myanmar. So here's the first one. This is the official Laotian language, and it's a Thakadai language family. It's closely related and spoken language in the northern Thailand part. So they're just neighbors. When you look at the Laotian alphabet, what does it remind you of? Frankly, it reminds me like a little hook, and each of the ends of the hook has this little circle. It's like my curtain hangers. That's how I remember them. So when I see that, it's Laotian. So think about Laotian hanging their curtains. So it's like a little metal hook with a circle at the end. Then when we move to the Burmese, which is now known as Myanmar, the Myanmar language is a long tradition and is written in a script that is derived from some ancient Brahmin script from India. And when you look at it, you see lots of circles. Okay, almost all their letters have circles, and it reminds me of the old 1960 homes when the masonry had little circles and the cast iron gates had little circles. So you think Myanmar like a 1960 retro look. Okay, and then we move on to the Thai. So Thai has 32 vowels, 44 consonants, and 32 vowels. So how does the Thai alphabet look like? So you see lots of squarish U and lots of squarish N both ways, and if the U comes up, there's always this thick part and a thin part, like a calligraphy. The thick part, the main structure, is like a flower pot, and the little thin ones look like tendrils or plants. Okay, so you think about Thailand being one of the great exporters of tropical plants. Okay, and we're not going to talk about Vietnamese today, maybe another time, but anything else that is Southeast Asian and you don't recognize, it's probably Vietnamese. Now we're going to go to India, and we'll compare the difference between Tamil and Hindi. So what's the difference? Hindi is an Indo-Aryan kind of spoken language, and is the primary language for more than 615 million people in India. And when you look at Hindi, you will notice there's kind of like a little roof, and then at the right angle it has little circles. It just immediately reminds me of a pot hanger at the side of your house. Okay, as compared to Tamil, and Tamil is a Dravidian language, and when they say Dravidian, it includes Malayalam and all those. And why they need to categorize this? Because it's just such a unique language that is not related to any other languages in the world. Okay, when I look at it, when you look Tamil and you look at Hindi, side by side, Tamil is the one with the roof, and you can hang a flower pot at the side of your cast iron hooks. But for Tamil, it looks like instrument, like an earthen pot, and this one looks like a buffalo horn, and this one looks like an army concertina wire. So what you actually do is try to recognize 2 or 3 characters in each language and say, I've seen that, because this concertina wire is not going to appear in the Hindi alphabet, only in the Tamil alphabet. So if you remember the earthen pot, the water buffalo horns, and the concertina wire, you know that would be Tamil. Now we move on to Arabic language. It's slightly flatter, it's less strokes. It feels like Middle Eastern Chinese calligraphy, like Chinese calligraphy, but it's Middle Eastern. Okay, so how do I remember this? Do you know at one time the Arabs are the greatest astronomers, and more than 50% of the stars out there are named after Arabic names? So when you see the Arabic alphabet, you realize there are little dots here and there, and that will remind you of the constellation of stars. So they have little dots that I would remind myself, hey, this must be Arabic because they are the great astronomers. Now we move on to the Greek alphabet. And the Greek alphabet, I think a lot of you already know about Alpha and Omega and Theta and Omicron. Okay, so what are we looking at? We are looking at those symbols that you are so familiar in your mathematics, in school, in your mathematics. So the Omega, like the Omega watch, and then you have the pi, the phi, and the psi, and the Omicron, okay, the O of the Omicron, the theta. The Greek language is a very old language and has continuously been spoken for over 3,000 years. They can trace back up to 800 BC. And now if we go on to the Russian language, when I first look at the Russian language, I think like, hey, I think the point is flipped over because there are certain letters like the R is flipped over, the E is flipped over, the N is flipped over. So when you look at a language and you're not sure whether you're looking at the right reflection, that's probably Russian. Okay, so far, we're going to test you at the end, okay? Now we move on to the Korean language. The Korean is a Hangul language. K-pop is such a big thing right now with BTS and Blackpink and everything Korean's like, ooh, so cool and classy. Okay, so you just name yourself, oh, Korean restaurant, it's full in Singapore. Korean hairstylist, it's full in Singapore. Okay, so how do you recognize the Korean language? You will eventually see a sentence, there are circles in there. So the only one that you can mix up this with is the Myanmar language, but the Myanmar language are smaller circles and thinner and finer. The Korean one always have a line and a circle beside it. It's like a trainer asking the dolphin to jump through the hoop. So that's how you remember. Okay, so it's like a handle and a dolphin hook. That's how you can remember it. So for the Japanese, anata, watashi wa Christian, namae Christian. Yeah. Okay, so for the Japanese language, it's you might mix it up with the Chinese language because they are interrelated and some characters in Japanese is in Chinese, so that would be a bit more difficult. So I guess the way I would see it is Chinese have very distinct, sharper strokes. As you later on, you will see they have sharper angles and very distinct, like a bit rougher. And the Japanese are a bit rounder. So it's like cursive. So this is Chinese, and it's probably one of the most difficult languages in the world. Unlike English, where you have 26 letters in the alphabet, Chinese is unlimited. So the Chinese characters are like Egyptian hieroglyphics because a long time ago it represents the man and the roof and the house, and through time they found it too difficult to draw a character out, so by and by they make it simpler. It's called 简笔字, and it makes it more simple. So now the stroke like 人 is just 2 strokes. It depicts a man walking, so that's 人, that's man. Okay, so that's actually what the Chinese language is like the Egyptian hieroglyphics. So when you look at the Chinese characters, you will see boxes, 口, which is actually the mouth. Okay, the square box is actually mouth. So anything with the 口 in there represents something that they will use to talk and so on. Okay, so it's very interesting but very difficult language to learn. And for a tree that looks like that, mu, so anything with the mu, which is tree wood, then you know that character will represent something woody. Since we're talking about hieroglyphics, so the Egyptian language is exactly the same, and I think that's probably one of the easiest to spot. A pot looks like a pot, and a traffic light in 1500 BC looks like a traffic light, and so on. Okay, so there you are, the 12 different languages and the alphabet, and I hope that you can recognize them. So here we go, ready to test you from the top, like a little fishing hook. Who are the people that hang the curtains? The Laotians. And who has homes that have circular motifs in terms of the cast iron or even the masonry? The Myanmaris or the Burmese. And here we have the flower garden in Bangkok, also now known as Kumte Mahanakhon. So two Indian alphabets here. One is Tamil and the other one is Hindi. So the Hindi ones are the ones that you have the little pot hanger at the corner of your house. And the Tamil ones, you recognize the concertina wire. What else? The water buffalo horn and also the earthen pot. Next, we talk about the Arabic word. Arabic, remember the stars? So what do you look out for? The little dots. Very good. For Greek, no brainer. It's about the theta, omicron, your omega, your alpha, and so on. Okay, so that's easy. For Russian, it's the opposite direction, right? You thought you saw things in the mirrored view, right? The R and the E and the N are in opposite direction. So here comes BTS and Blackpink jumping through the hoop. That would be Korean. Very good. So the Japanese language will be very close to the Chinese because some characters are the same, but for the Japanese it's smoother and looks like calligraphy. To give you a bonus, since you come to the end of this video and you're still here, let's talk about the Hebrew language. So how do you recognize the Hebrew language? Not too difficult. You always have like the blood of the doorpost. You apply the blood of the doorpost. So you have lots of, you go to Petra in Jordan, and then you like have a door into the cave. So many of them are like that, and the square. And then think of the fig tree and the menorah. Okay, so these are the things that will remind you, hey, this must be a very old language in the time of Christ. Okay, so in my next video, I'll do languages that uses the Roman alphabet, the A, B, C, D, and how do you recognize German from English to Malay to Bahasa. So subscribe if you're learning something. I'll see you.